everybody. This is Win Sports. I'm Abdullah Konte here with our beat reporter, Skylar Nelson. And we are here to review yesterday's debacle of a game. I don't know what that was exactly. It was very ugly from the start. Not ideal. I mean, I think we're all excited to see some actual football being played. But the outcome wasn't super great. But what could we learn from it? I think that's what we're here to discuss. How bad was it really? Is it something to be? Is it very alarming, or is it something where we might be just overreacting? And I think that's one of the things about preseason. Whether your team looks really good or really bad, there's elements of just overreaction that could happen. So. Yeah, Skylar. So, I mean, look, let's talk about it. What was your takeaways, or what was your thoughts about, the game itself, and how did you feel after watching it?
Honestly, I mean, obviously it was a pretty ugly preseason opener. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to lose by 30. 48-18 is kind of insane. But, you're talking about 30 players that we want to see and that people are fans of who really contribute to this team did not play against some of the Patriots starters. So you have to kind of keep that in mind when you are looking at the game, because there were some moments where I did have to kind of push back a little bit and say, okay, we don't see Jaden Daniels, we don't see Zach Ertz. Obviously, we're not going to see Bobby Wagner. So it's like, it's very hard to kind of put into perspective. But I think the offense on the receiving side of things was a little bit decent. I think, Sam Hartman, he does play like a third string or a fourth string quarterback. I mean, as expected, he had kind of a slow start.
Yeah.
But what really kind of disappointed me a little bit was special teams, because I feel like even though the main starters weren't in the game, for special teams, especially on those third and fourth downs, it's very crucial for the Commanders to act on it. And even though we kind of pushed, like last year, they kind of pushed it out on third and fourth downs, one of the leading teams for that last season. I feel like, we do have to, in some cases, rely on that special teams. And Matt Gay, they're going to have to explore more options out of him. I feel like to miss a 49-yard field goal in a crucial moment in the first half, and then after that, he got us 37. It was a 37 yards. It was like a 37-yard field goal, which was fine. But even then, we need those quick reactions. We already had kicker problems last year and the year before that, and they still haven't resolved that issue. So that's something that I think the Commanders are really going to have to act on.
Yeah, I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. I mean, I think that the first thing is that, it's preseason, so we can't overreact too much. Like you said, there was 30 players gone. Only 53 people make the team. So that means majority of the people who were playing yesterday aren't even going to be on this team.
Exactly.
There were so many guys who will be playing on this team that weren't playing yesterday. I think the special teams is the one that you're most concerned about, because depth, those guys who are playing special teams are probably going to be the guys who are actually playing special teams for this team, come the fall, come the start of the season. So, going back and watching the kick returns, both of them, they were both really bad. And, Matt Gay, I'm not sure if I'm at that point of they got to explore different options, but I do think he has to turn it around. The kicker thing has been an issue ever since, DQ's been here. They've just been going through a Rolodex of different kickers. And last year was actually relatively successful, despite having I think they had 6 different kickers last year. They still were able to have success, but they brought him in to be, they brought him in to solidify that position. And so I do think that's something to watch. What I will say is that despite being, underwhelmed by the performance of the team, I would say the guys that you actually expect to contribute to this team next year played well. You had people like Johnny Newton and Jeremy Reeves and JCM played pretty well, even though like the stat line isn't amazing, but he had good plays, and there was a pass he caught that got called back. He made a few people miss. So I think that's the part of it that you'd be happy about, is that, like, as much as the team as a whole didn't play super well, there were things that you got to be not necessarily excited about, but you're like, at least that looked good. At least those parts look good. So let's just talk about it from each, part of the game. I think let's just talk about offense first, and I'll, just ask you what you liked about what the offense did. I think overall the whole game, there's not a lot of great things that you could say about the team's performance. But what did you like about the offense, and what did you not like about the offense's performance?
Honestly, there was actually a lot, even outside of the struggles, that I liked about the offense. Wide receiver Tay Martin, he really stepped up his game yesterday. I feel like he was that guy. He had a lot of open looks. He made himself available. And I think whether that was for Sam or for Josh, I felt like that spoke volume, because in that type of situation, especially when those D-backs are pushing onto you and the pressure is on, I feel like that you have to make yourself available. And he did a good job of doing that yesterday. JCM, what we saw in practice is actually real. I feel like, he brought the speed, he brought the vision yesterday. As long as we can keep him healthy and keep him together, I feel like, he still has a lot to learn. There were some rookie mistakes that he made yesterday, but I mean, what NFL player coming in their rookie year hasn't made a mistake? So,
Yeah, the false start wasn't ideal.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But
anyways,
yeah,
continue.
yeah, I think he did pretty well. Chris Moore, as much as I want to say that he was on and off, I do feel like Chris Moore is going to be one of those wide receivers that is going to come clutch in those like deep pass throws, because we've seen him in practice. I feel like that he's done a pretty good job of that. He has a high jump as well, where he can get to it and kind of get on the defender to get it. And I feel like that's something that's going to speak volume this season, especially since there are defenses coming after us, especially since, the way that the O-line is supposed to look with Lermy and Josh. And speaking of Josh, Josh did have a good game yesterday. The pass protection was pretty protected, more so than what people thought it was going to be. So I'm actually glad about that too. And Ben Sinnott, it was kind of on and off for me. I do want to see more from him. I can't really say too much about him because he had some good moments, but he had some drop passes yesterday. And KJ Osborne and Michael Gallup, I want to say they're still trying to find their way, but there were a lot of crucial mistakes that they made yesterday from my standing.
So I would say my first thing I would say is I disagree with you on Chris Moore, because I don't think Chris Moore makes the team, because there's just been too many bad, drops. We've seen drops in practice.
Yeah.
He had that dropped yesterday was bad. It was a really bad drop. And then he also had one where he almost caught it and it was going to be a really nice catch to maybe redeem himself, but he ended up dropping that one also, because he just couldn't pull it down all the way. And I think he has great size, and I think that he has the tools, but at the end of the day, it kind of reminds me a little bit about like Benjamin St. Juste last year, where it's like you can have all the tools, but if you don't make the play, it's hard to like advocate for you. So I like the guy, I like the player, but I think that would be somebody that I would question if they would move forward with him. I think at the end of the day, Terry McLaurin and Buddy Baker are sitting at home kind of like, oh, yeah, the value of Terry is growing higher, because when you really look at outside of Debo, that was one of the things I was hoping to see, is somebody else really, showing out. And I think you can say Tay Martin and Ja'Cory played well, but they played well at the end of the game, where it's like, who's even out there playing against them, right? Like I wanted to see some more excitement earlier in the game. I know some people don't love Gallup. I kind of like Gallup, but he's another one. I'm not sure. It's going to be pretty interesting who that last player is. I think we know the top 5 at the receiving core, but that number 6 receiver is the one that I'm not so sure about. What I liked was JCM. I thought JCM played well. I'd like to see him with the actual starting O line, and with Jaden playing back there. What else did I like? There just wasn't really much offensively that I liked. I just JCM was probably the only thing that I thought was good. I couldn't critique the O line that well. I know a lot of people have said Connor Lee played well. I can't say for myself that I saw him do anything that stood out to me.
Yeah. Like flashy.
I think everybody, yeah, like I just think there was a lot of, oh, that's a cool play here, that's a cool play there, but I wasn't really impressed thoroughly with anyone outside of JCM, and even with him with the false start, like you can't have that. That's kind of a rookie mistake. So I just didn't get a lot out of the offense. I mean, obviously they didn't score much. It took them a long time to even get on the board. I was just kind of expecting more early on. So that's kind of my take on the offense. I'd like to see a lot more next week, and I think next week it sounds like more starters will play. I don't know if Jaden will play, but ideally he plays like a couple series. I think that'd be nice to see, especially since I think Cincinnati is planning to play Burrow and Jamar as well, so they might be playing their defensive starters. So let's move over to defense. I think there's obviously not much, and this is preseason, so we don't have to go super in depth on every position. But what was something that you enjoyed seeing on defense? And obviously things you didn't love about the defense.
Honestly, Carlin Vigors really stood out to me yesterday. I mean, he had 8 tackles. I feel like that there were some on and off moments, but he kind of started to see and feel his way out towards the second half, like most players did. Noah I and Jeremy Reeves to me also stood out because they had some hard hits yesterday. I feel like the Commanders needed that momentum to keep going, and I feel like that they pretty much so did that. I want to say Trey Amos didn't stand out, but there were some moments where his coverage was kind of, there. I mean, it wasn't flashy or I'm going to slap the ball out of your hands, but I mean, he did provide coverage when they needed it. And Madrano, there's a lot of hype around Madrano. I do need to see more from him. Same with Tyler Owings. I feel like there were some good moments from him yesterday and then kind of some eerie ones. I feel like it was like that for every player though, because it was just a lot. Percy Butler, Bobby Price, I definitely need to see more from them to really understand kind of their play styles a little bit more. I feel like, they're the type between their sizes and then also to how they perform. I don't really see a big standout for me, but I mean, they had some on and off moments yesterday. And of course, Johnny Newton with the fumble recovery and the forced fumble, that was pretty good. I feel like that they definitely needed that, and that kind of helped the situation a little bit better because they were already down anyway. So it was that was kind of the momentum build up. And I think that was one of the only fumble recoveries of the game yesterday.
It might have been, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, so I agree with you on some stuff, disagree with you on others. I think for me, if I'm gaming a game ball, obviously there's not a lot of there wasn't a lot of great stuff to see. I thought Newton played very well. He was disruptive in the backfield, and that strip sack, that was against their first team offense. That's another thing to say, is that they had their first team offense out there playing against our backups. And so Johnny Newton is a guy who's a fringe starter. I think that he'll be playing a lot. And, I thought he was disruptive in the backfield. I thought the strip sack was great, obviously. So I give him great stars for his effort in play yesterday. And the same I would say for Jeremy Reeves. I thought he was all over the place. And, that was kind of what I was hoping for Tyler Owens. And I think Tyler Owens played well, too. He just had that one really bad missed tackle, which is one that everybody is remembering. But he was all over the field. He made a really good play on Travion Henderson early in the game, too, that if he broke out of that tackle, he would have scored again. And then I thought, who else was there? Noah I thought played really well. He had one bad fourth down, but he played really well with the intensity that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I feel like he is, if he's your fourth or fifth corner on this team, that says a lot because
Yeah.
he can play as a number one, as a starting corner on other teams. If he's your fourth to fifth corner, that's amazing, right? So it's funny you mentioned Vigors. When it comes to things I didn't love, I thought Vigors made tackles, but he did get run over by Gibson on one play. He made a lot of tackles, but I also felt like he needed a little bit more physicality.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, I mean that's something where I'm a big fan of Vigors. Him and Ja'Cory Brooks are the two guys that I'm looking for as potential guys to make the roster. I think his trajectory is a little harder because it's such a crowded corner room. There's a lot of good corners on this team now, which is crazy to say because 2 years ago we would never have said that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I felt like there was more to see from a lot of people. Like this is where it's like everybody you could be like, yo, didn't really see enough from that guy. Didn't really love his play. There's just so many people that you're just like, they seem nervous. They seem nervous that the whole game they just seem nervous and a little out of it, just a funk for this team that I don't think it's normal for them. Like I don't know what it was, but there was some kind of energy that they just didn't bring. That was surprising because I just don't think all these guys I think normally play better than what they did. I think the only people that played appropriate level was Johnny Newton and Jeremy Reeves. I feel like and maybe Noah I.
Yeah, no,
I feel like everybody else, was this kind of flustered. Just not even, not to go back to offense, but even Sam Hartman. I'd seen Sam Hartman play better in practice than he did yesterday. So it's just, it's the first game. It's, some people just have a bad day, and that's what it just felt like. They just had a bad day. I don't think this team, the depth of this team is concerning though, because basically if you have one of these major guys get hurt, who are we going to look for? You know what I mean? This is where, the one thing you want to see here is that the execution's good, people are playing with effort, all of that. And I think that's my concern is that if there is depth problems throughout the season, you got to kind of get lucky and not get injured. If people do get injured, you'd like to hope that the guys behind them are going to contribute well to this team. And I think that that's where I'm concerned. But at the same time, 30 people did not play.
Yeah.
So out of all the guys who are on the field, most of them won't be playing. So won't be on this team. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, it just wasn't a great performance by either side of the ball. So let's get to special teams, which I think is probably the most concerning thing. So what's your thought on special teams?
They were bad.
Very bad.
Like
Very bad.
I don't really have any thoughts. I mean, this just goes back to just the kick, honestly. That's really all I could pay attention to because it's like, I mean, obviously they had Jeremy Reeves on special teams. He's going to be, well, he didn't start in special teams actually.
Mm-hmm.
They put him in towards the end, which I know that they were trying to testing things out, but I'm going to be honest, in the future, they're going to put Jeremy back in that spot.
Well, Jeremy Reeves was in, I think Jeremy Reeves was in all the special teams. I'm not sure if he wasn't. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if there was anything specifically that he wasn't on. But,
yeah, I didn't see him, unless I'm mistaken, I didn't see him start in special teams. But, like, they kind of edged him in it towards the end because I know they were trying to develop what that looked like. And then also, too, Jalen Lane didn't do the kick returns all the time.
He did punt return. But the kick return, I don't remember who was starting for kick returns. But either way, Jalen Lane didn't really have much. I mean, it was nice to see him catch the punt. I think the one that I saw, and forgive me, I think I stopped watching the last quarter because I was just like, this is miserable. So I kind of went back and watched some highlights of it. But the one punt return I saw, he made a good catch on it. Tried to make a guy miss, just didn't get a lot of opportunities, and this is where it's like, we'll just see. You know what I mean? It's one game, but I think the biggest takeaways was their kick coverage was atrocious. I mean, you look at that first one, And it's the opening game. You're hoping that you bring a lot of intensity to that first kickoff, and the fact that Travion Henderson is a freak of nature, right? He's very
Yeah.
talented. It was a guy that a lot of people wanted to draft here, including myself. But if you look at that coverage, a lot of players could have scored that. You know what I mean? Debo could have scored that. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of guys who could have got through there and scored because they were just
Yeah.
very much blocked. Like, there was not anybody really shedding off block. There might have been one. I think Yankoff was kind of close to being a hold. I think somebody said that could have been a hold. I agree with that. It could have been. But at the end of the day, I mean, Travion is a freak, but there's a reason why Travion and Gibson both had great, returns because they just weren't the kick coverage was just really bad. And then I think for what you were talking about in regards to, our kicker, we're gonna need to see improvement there because they brought him here to solidify that position, and as of right now, doesn't really feel solid. So
This isn't the first time we've seen. I mean, obviously, this isn't the first time that we've seen kicker problems in Washington, but at the same time, the way that this team is moving and developing, we just upgraded the O line. We have Jaden. And then on top of that, too, we're still playing with the wide receiver room a little bit.
Well, the thing is that you're trying to win a championship.
Exactly.
Like, and this is where I know that people want to be like, oh, preseason doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. But at the same time, your depth matters. Like, your special teams matter. Your kicker matter. Like, all these things. And that's where, if we take any takeaway from this game,
Yeah.
it's not even the offense or the defense because most of those guys are guys who are not going to be playing that much on offense and defense. Special teams is the thing that's the most alarming because those were actually the guys who are probably going to be on special teams.
Yeah.
And the fact that they struggled so much, it's like, yo, this needs to get corrected because this is actually your real true team. This is the real guys who are going to be here. And special teams is such a huge part of the game. Like, it's something that we kind of it's very underrated. But that was probably the most alarming thing to me was like, yo, this needs to be changed.
Yeah.
This needs to be, they need to go clean this up. And am I worried that they won't? No, I think they'll take care of it. But I do think, when it comes to the kicker, we'll see. I mean, he struggled a little bit in practice, but the thing is, he's not one of these guys they just got off the waiver wire like last year. Last year, they just had a Rolodex of people, so when a guy struggled, it was kind of like, hey, well, I mean, what do you expect? But this is somebody they went and sought after, and they grabbed him, and so they expect better performance from him. So, it's early. I'm not going to freak out yet. I just think it's like one of these things, you put a pin in it, keep watching, we'll see. So, okay, so look, to kind of wrap this up, what do you want to see, next week? Like, what are you hoping to see improvements of? What would make you happier watching this team, and what do you expect to change from this team next week?
Personally, I do want to see more competition from the wide receiver room. I mean, obviously, Debo and Terry are going to be protected. Terry's kind of, this kind of just made his case even more interesting. But at the same time, I still see little things that are kind of outside of Terry McLaurin, Debo Samuel, and Noah Brown. I see small things that could change. But most likely, out of this team, there are going to be a lot of wide receivers that are not going to make this team. And we've seen that and we know that. Going back to your point about Chris Moore, I understand where you're coming from. But also at the same time, I feel like, some wide receivers are better for certain things.
Of course.
However, it just happens that Terry McLaurin and Debo are good in all areas.
Yeah.
The factor.
Well,
But-
I mean, this is where if you want to come and take a spot, you got to make it to play. And so you can have all the tools, but there's a reason why Terry is so valued. He's the highest contested catcher in the NFL. I mean, you throw it up to him, he catches those balls. And one of the things I said in our last podcast about Debo Samuel in comparison to all these other receivers is that when the ball is going to Debo, I feel confident that he's going to catch that.
Absolutely.
Some of these other guys, I'm like, we'll see,
Yeah.
and with Chris Moore, that's kind of how it's been. And I think the pressure kind of gets to people a little bit. And I think for me, he has all the tools. We need him to make the play. And that's where, if you're not going to have Terry and the way things are going, we don't know if Terry's going to sign before the season starts. Like, I'd like to, I've been kind of ignoring it and being like, oh, he's going to sign. And like, now I'm kind of like, I don't know. So if you don't know, somebody needs to step up. And like you said, based off these receivers, I don't know who you go to after Debo, because Debo and Noah Brown, and we haven't really seen Noah Brown much because he's been hurt.
Yeah.
Then Luke McCaffrey, which he was sick. I think it's the reason why he wasn't playing, or he played like one snap and that was about it. So we haven't seen much out of Luke. Who am I missing? I mean, Michael Gallup. I'm not sure about Gallup. I'm not sure about Osborne. Like, there's a lot of uncertainty outside of Deebo Samuel, and I know we have Ertz, but there's just I don't know. I mean, I agree. That's something that we need to look into. It's one that we should really monitor.
Yeah. But definitely, I want to see more competition in them, because the competition in practice, Noah Brown said it himself. It's a hungry competition, and what we see in practice, like, yes, there are a lot of drop balls in practice. Don't get me wrong, especially on the inside, for sure. But then that's where guys like Zach Ertz comes in, because, when we're going down the field of stretch, then guys like Luke McCaffrey, Chris Moore, Michael Gallup, Osborne should make themselves available. And then we just signed Tate Martin. Obviously, like we had talked about before, his game wasn't the best, but he was one of the receivers that stood out because he kept himself open more. So I feel like, I want to see more competition in the wide receiver room, but I also definitely want to see more, especially I do want to see more Ben Sinnott. I mean, he had his on and off moments, but I do want to see more from him. And just the defense in general, I feel like the cornerback room, like we've talked about a million times, is very competitive. I do want to see, somebody outside of Noah or Jeremy, or even in the safety room for Jeremy Reeves, step out of their shell. I'm all about players at this point breaking their shells and giving Dan Quinn, something to kind of sleep on, Yeah. That's what I'm about. But I definitely feel like, all is not lost, okay? Because I was seeing everybody freaking out yesterday.
I mean, I think people need to take a chill pill. If they had the best game ever, people would be saying, oh my God, we're so good. Yeah. And that's also something that they need to chill on. Like, this is the time of overreaction, because we've seen teams that won every preseason game, like the Detroit Lions that one year where they won all their preseason games, and then I think they didn't win a game all season. And you have others where they don't win any preseason games, and then they go and dominate throughout the season. So it's like, preseason is not something to overreact. It's just a glorified practice. Yeah. And so I'm not going to freak out over that. I think what I'd like to see is the starters play, because I think we need to see how different the starters are in comparison to the other people, because the things that I wanted to see was like the run game. I wanted to see improvement on the run game, the run defense, and it was not there. And to be fair, the guys who are playing are not really the guys that they brought in to correct that. But the run defense was horrible yesterday, so that's something that I would like to see. So I want to see the starters play. Then, offensively, like, look, I want to see Jaden play a little bit. I want to see his connection with JCM and Jalen Lane and, some of these other receivers, because if they're playing and it's still not working, then it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? It's easy to just – right now it's like it's really hard to determine what was bad, what was good. The one thing I think that's apparent and has to be corrected are two things. Is one, way too many penalties. I think they had 13 penalties for 98 yards, which is just not like a Dan Quinn team. And then the second one is the special teams. So those two, like, that needs to be corrected no matter what, right? Yeah. But for the other stuff, it's like, look, who the people who are playing, we don't know if they're even going to play at all. So that's what I want. I want to see, especially if Cincinnati's playing their starters, I think this team should play their starters. The only person that maybe they can debate if they should play him or not is Jaden, just because, look, man, you don't want that guy getting hurt. And even if you do play him, maybe like 2 series or something like that, that's the only person I feel like should have a day off if they have to, bench anybody. I feel like the rest of the guys should play. I'd like to see them play. I think it's time for them to get a little work in, and because they're probably not going to get work in on the 3rd game, and then the season starts. So, and based off what we've seen in practice, the offense has been okay, and it's surprising because we really thought the offense would be insane, and it takes a while. But I think for right now, I would like to see a little bit of more consistency. And I just want to see them play against, play in a live format. Apparently they played well. Like the offense played pretty well against New England's defense in that practice. Yeah. But we weren't there to see it. So as much as I want to critique that, I don't know. So that's what I want to see. And but yeah, ultimately, I mean, look, it was a terrible game. It was fun to see football on again. I'm excited to watch more preseason today. Even though preseason is kind of like fun for like a quarter, and then you're like, oh yeah, this is like kind of trash, It's like you go to a restaurant and you're like, oh yeah, man, I can't wait to eat because you're starving, and then it's like Long John Silver's or something, you know what I mean? It's just not great food. So it's one of these things where it's like I'm excited to watch more, but I think at the end of the day, the special teams is the only thing that I'm really, really concerned about, and just some of the depth spots. But I'm looking forward to next week. So they have a practice on Sunday. So we'll probably try to go out there and get another couple interviews or whatnot. But we'll be covering the team. We're excited for the Monday night game. We'll probably come back and try to do another video here to talk about what we are looking forward to seeing in the next game. Do you have any closing remarks, Skylar, before I let us go?
Honestly, this is just the beginning for them. I'm excited to see where the season kind of takes them. I wouldn't be too worried about this game. But, just keep in mind that, there's little things that they got to fix. But the special team is a big concern. So, we want to keep that in mind. That's one of the biggest things I woke up thinking about this morning when it came to the Commanders was that special teams. So, I do want, I think that they're going to improve it. DQ, he's one of those coaches where he doesn't let things last long. He makes moves. So, I trust that they're going to get it together. And this was only the first game. The first game where Joe and Cliff could really evaluate what these secondaries and third strings really look like.
Yeah.
So we just got to play it by ear, keep that in mind.
Yeah, they as much as it's guys that they don't know if we're going to make the team, we still want them playing at their best, spots. We still want the effort to be at a max capacity, and you want the mistakes to be reduced to nothing, right? So
yeah.
Even though, they might not make the team, or we don't know who's going to be on the squad from the people who played, you still want them to play at their best. That's what a team is. It's good from top to bottom. And when you're talking about championships, you're going to need random guys to make plays that you weren't expecting to make plays, right? So, anyways, that's all.
Yeah.
It's great talking. If you guys like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, follow us, support us. We're going to keep trying to give you the best, coverage as we can. We've been, obviously enjoying this. This has been fun. We can't wait to do it again. So thank you guys for your time. See you later.